It was supposed to be just another peaceful Saturday at our cabin, 3 acres of secluded pine up in the mountains, far from the chaos of town. Birds were chirping, the sun was gently warming the porch, and my wife Ellie was pouring fresh coffee into those chipped enamel mugs we'd grown to love. We weren't rich, just quiet people with a deep need for space and sanity. That's why we moved here. That's why we left the city. But of course, peace is never free, not when someone like Karen lives nearby. She called herself Karen Blake, a name as sharp as her tone, but everyone in this patch of forgotten forest knew her as something else. The self-appointed enforcer of a dead HOA. That's right. The HOA around here dissolved 5 years ago. No meetings, no dues, no legal power. But that didn't stop Karen. Nope. She carried herself like a sheriff with a clipboard, printed violations in Comic Sans, taped them to mailboxes, marched up and down gravel roads like she owned them. We'd had a couple run-ins. She didn't like our solar panels, said our cabin violated uniform aesthetic guidelines, whatever that meant. We ignored her, until she came screaming up our road that Saturday, tires spitting gravel. Her silver SUV practically coughed as it rolled to a stop outside our fence. I heard the engine cut just as I was stepping back inside. Then the door slammed, and the voice, shrill enough to send birds flying. "Open up! I have authority to conduct a perimeter inspection under Civil Clause 9. Ellie looked up from her coffee like she'd just heard a raccoon start speaking English. I stepped aside so she could take the lead. She was better at handling people like Karen. She walked calmly onto the porch, mug still in hand. "There's no Clause 9, Karen. There's no HOA. Karen stomped up to the gate, wearing a neon vest that read Property Regulator, a title she'd clearly made up. "You think this is a joke? You're violating line-of-sight codes. That equipment out back? Illegal structures." Ellie didn't flinch. She set her mug down on the railing, reached into the folder we'd prepped the night before, and handed her a document. Karen took it with a scoff until her eyes scanned the top line. Warrant for arrest, issued by Jefferson County. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, but no sound came out. She looked up at Ellie. "What is this?" This can't be." Ellie crossed her arms. "You've been impersonating a government official. That's a felony, Karen, and Jefferson County doesn't play games." Like clockwork, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up, behind her SUV. The timing couldn't have been more perfect if we'd scripted it. Out stepped Deputy Harris, hand resting casually on his belt. "Ma'am," he called out, not even looking at us, "I need you to stay exactly where you are." Karen turned to face him, sputtering. I don't understand." "This is outrageous. I was just doing my duty." "Your duty," he said slowly, "has involved multiple instances of trespassing, issuing false citations and forging official documents." Karen looked like her brain was buffering. "You are Karen Blake, Diob, May 14th, 1971? She nodded. He stepped forward and held out his hand. "Place your hands in front of you. You're under arrest." She didn't move. "You people set me up." "You—" She pointed at Ellie. "You've been watching me." Ellie raised an eyebrow. "Yes, with cameras. Because you kept trespassing." Karen looked around wildly like she was hoping to find someone, anyone, who might save her. But this was the middle of nowhere. There was no one. "I need to call my husband. He's a lawyer." "He'll have your badges!" Deputy Harris didn't blink. "You can make a call from the station." He read her rights as he cuffed her. Her face turned pale as fog. I swear you could hear the wind, whispering through the trees. As she was placed in the back of the cruiser, as the sheriff's car drove away, Ellie looked at me and grinned. "Worth it?" "Worth it," I nodded. But neither of us knew. That was just the start. That afternoon, I walked down the trail toward Karen's house, just to see. It sat like a haunted dollhouse behind Thorny. Shrubs she claimed were certified pollinator buffers. The gate was open. The shed door was swinging in the breeze. I didn't trespass. I just called the sheriff. Told them the property was unsecured after an arrest. They said someone would check it out. But I didn't leave, because I heard something inside that shed. A bang, then a voice. A man, early 50s, stepped into the doorway holding a box of papers. "You from next door?" he asked, trying too hard to act casual. "Yeah, who are you?" "I'm her cousin, just grabbing some of her things." Funny. The sheriff hadn't cleared anyone. When I told him I was calling the station again, he panicked, threw the box back into the shed, jumped into an old truck and floored it down the hill. Deputy Harris arrived 20 minutes later. Took one look at the box and went silent. He pulled out a folder. Community Financial Oversight Board. "There's no such board. Not in this state." "She made this up," he muttered, flipping through pages. "Fake assessments. Fake fines. Threat letters. Looks like she's been scamming the whole ridge." Word got out fast. 4 neighbors came forward in the next week. All had paid mandatory HOA fees. To Karen, one elderly couple gave her $400 over 2 years, all under threat of property lines that never existed. Turns out Karen had run this scam in 2 other rural communities before ours. Always the same pattern. Revive a dead HOA, print official-looking forms, and bully isolated residents into paying up. This time, she went too far. The county prosecutor filed fraud charges, impersonation, trespassing, mail tampering, and that man in the shed, deputies found more fake letters in his truck. Looks like Karen wasn't working alone. That evening, Ellie and I sat on the porch watching the sun dip behind the pines. No screeching tires. No pink violation slips taped to our door. Just silence. "She really thought she was the law," Ellie said, shaking her head. "No," I replied. "She thought no one would stand up to her." But she was wrong. All it took was one warrant, one brave woman standing on her own porch, and a scam came crashing down. If you think karma finally caught up to Karen, hit that like button and drop a justice served in the comments. Subscribe for more wild HOA stories where the self-appointed enforcers get exactly what's coming to them. And trust me, you won't believe what happens in the next one.